Welcome. It's the That Punk Stephen X show after hours, and we have a very, very special guest here, Mr. Nigel Toxic. Welcome.
Stephen, how you going, brother?
I'm good. How are you?
Nice to be here.
Hey, after hours with Stephen X. How does it sound?
X-rated, right?
That's
I can
X-rated.
swear.
You can swear. We can do whatever the fuck we
We're
want.
not after any money from YouTube or anything like that.
Will we ever after money, Nigel?
Wow, not playing punk rock music, brother.
Not really, will we? Anyway, I want to hear about some history, Nigel. And
I hope you got some questions.
You've got the answers that I need to know.
Yeah, if you've got the questions.
So, I want to hear about your first band. Tell me about your first band. When your first ever.
Like my first real band?
Real band then. First. Tell me about the march. All I know is about...
Okay, so that's what I meant. You want to hear about PMD or the march?
March turning into PMD.
Okay, so the march is me at 13 years old, playing the bass, singing, getting whoever I can to play a guitar and drums. Usually school friends that weren't, Clinton from Inebriation started. Like, it was when he joined. We'd been through a couple of lineups, but when Clinton joined on drums and Sean Stevenson joined, that became a solid lineup that, could play proper.
You guys did a gig under the march name?
Not with that lineup, because that band became PMD.
Yeah.
By the time we had that lineup. So, the first gig was the original lineup, and the guys pass out stage. We had a bottle of vodka, and some guys from Wellington came up and wanted to give us a bunch of Valium to get them in on the guest list.
Oh, that's
so we were like, yeah, whatever. And so so we were like, we didn't even know what a guest list was, because it was our first gig, 13 years old, school kids, And so I'm like, oh, if that's a thing, yeah, sure. So they gave us the Valium, and we chucked them in the vodka, and and shook it up and
go back,
And before we went on stage, I went to the toilet, and I come back, and the drummer and the guitar player had sculled the bottle, and most of it was at the bottom.
Oh, plugged up at the
we're
bottom.
On stage, first song, and the drummer stops, and I turn around. He's fallen off the stool, and he passed out. And a second later, like, the same thing happened with the guitarist, more or less. By this time, Richard from Toxic Avengers, who were playing their first show that night as Toxic Avengers, jumped up on drums.
Okay.
Well, they had, they first as Toxic Avengers, so after Docs and OD. Basically into
it's the very first Toxic Avengers show. That's cool.
That night it was New Year's Eve '87, I believe.
Okay.
And
before I was born.
And a while back, and so the guitarist passed out as well. Being that I was the only one in the band that had even taken a pill, so
already before that,
Colin Long, who had made a big impression on me already as a member of Sticky Filth with their Lion and the Witch recording, and Vintage Comics. And he had helped us set up, and next thing he's on guitar. So, the first
Magic.
March turned into like me playing covers with those two, which was sort
Isn't
of,
that
you know,
amazing?
it was, you know, it was like, and it was almost a glimpse into my future. You know
Yeah,
what I
it's
mean?
kind of
Because I would end
foreshadowing.
up in Toxic Avengers, and you know, and
Wow.
I would end up working with, you know, people from Sticky Filth, and you know, so. But yeah, so the band passed out, and then yeah, you know, there was a couple of lineups, and but it wasn't till we had Sean Stevenson on guitar and Schooler on drums that the real band,
And
and then
I
Clinton was
believe,
like, you know, you guys are too good for me now. I can't keep up. And so he left. But we, at the time, we already knew who we wanted was the original guy. The guy with his arms folded, Mr. Steve Nixon,
yep,
was a powerhouse, right?
fucking
And
oath.
and you know, I walked in a brand new pair of Doc Martens. I walked. It was about a 2-hour walk to get to his house from my place. I had the worst blisters, man. But you know, I had
Dedication.
to go and you know and ask because you couldn't just ring a guy up or something. You know, it was like
It's not like
you
today.
know the 80s.
Yeah.
It was like so I had to go there and go, hey, well, you know, we want you to join our band. And he's like, oh well, you know, check it out, you know, and so at that point, you know, we jammed and it was having, you know, Clinton was right, you know, like having a great drummer, you know, was better than having an average drummer. And so this is
Oh
at
yeah.
practice rooms.
Okay. I
Signed
believe I
up,
have that T-shirt
you
now.
know, in '88.
Okay. Wow.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
1988 that was. And so yeah, that's you know that's early PMD. We had already, I mean, we played our second gig in Auckland, Anarchist Gun Convention, and you know, this was the first band that could play properly, and you know, I consider my first proper band. You know,
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Steve, like we would like Sean, the guitarist, would end up getting into the speed metal thing, hardcore. You know,
So it started
and
more punk rock,
so we
and
started out
then
as a
more.
punk band that turned into more of a hardcore crossover thing, and then a heavy metal lead guitarist was added, and we were like a speed metal band almost,
Yeah.
except that I was sort of not 100% into that.
Well, hey, you're a punk rocker,
But
and
I
it
wasn't
started.
100% not into it, you know what I mean? But
Yeah.
you know, I was listening to things like Suicidals, you know, and How Will I Laugh Tomorrow was big at the time that we were doing, like, especially our first album. So I changed my vocal to like a clean vocal, you know, and started trying to, you know, do that. So that put a different spin on the
That
whole
kind of changed the
speed
whole
metal thing.
scene. Hey, that
Yeah, it
stuff.
sort of brought it back into my control a bit because I could
Yeah.
feel myself losing control of this band, you
Yeah.
know, and you know, these other people were becoming something like Steve left because he see it happen, you know, it was like he wasn't into it, you know.
Yeah. But
And uh,
but
you
shortly
know,
after that
and
was very
that
shortly
led
after
to
was Toxics, right?
well, yeah, right. So I mean, we went down to Wellington to open for Sticky Filth, and some of the guys in PMD had started being a bit fucking rude to me, and I wasn't going to take that shit. So I stole one of their guitars, and they didn't know I'd been asked to join Toxic Avengers on rhythm guitar. So you know, I don't even come back to New Plymouth with them. I travelled back with Sticky Filth and Brian Wafer's Dodge hearse, and I
That
was
saved
so
a
out
lot,
of it
right?
on Halcyon, right, that they got a flat tire like in the middle of nowhere, and they're trying to wake me up to like get out of the car so they could like change the tire, and I was just would not
Out.
wake up there.
Oh.
Just
That's when those pills work.
fucking out to it. But I felt like, this relief was gone. I didn't have, even though Wafer was not happy, I don't think really, because he was releasing the PMD album on tape.
Okay,
right?
he wanted that
Like
still
me,
going, right?
Like 2 weeks later. So
Yeah.
he was like, what do you
I
mean?
put
And I was like, dude, it'll still sell, right? I'm in Toxic Avengers now. They told me if you put PMD, you can, because like I see it as fact. The first time I put on a gig, people would get me in for free, So by the time it came to playing, PMD are on stage, and it all just sounded wrong to me, which is a symptom of what I thought anyway.
Okay.
Because it was just getting too metal. But
and then
but
getting the offer.
It seemed like they were all playing this. They were playing the songs wrong. That's what it sounded like, and I was like, why they're blowing it? But it was me. I was completely off my fucking nut, right? And so they're going, man, what are you doing? I'm like, and trying to be like discreet. And I'm like on the microphone going, you can't fucked. You can't even play. Get off the fucking stage, like.
Yeah.
And this sort of like, but and
because you're used to that.
Someone that I knew very well got bottled outside. So
oh damn,
I left the stage to go and see how they were. I could give a fuck about playing at that
the gig. Yeah.
So I just left. I just fucked off the hospital with my friend, and so Toxic Avengers dudes who had split up after Colin Long had died in the street fight in January 1990. They hadn't played, and so they were standing around, and the punters are going, "There's no band. Nigel's left. What the fuck?" So they started just
going
on? Chanting Toxics.
Yeah.
And so
everyone's
Richard
there in the crowd.
And well, no, Brett. I don't know if Brett was there. He because he had left. Not long before Colin died. He actually left. And so it was the 3-piece. And when I got back from the hospital, like I can't have been gone that long because I hadn't been on stage long. So they said, jump up and sing. So I did. And then talking to them that night, they said, we should keep playing. Do you want to fill in Colin's place? So at that point, that was how that happened. And,
oh, wicked.
Which then turns into later on the remaining Richard going to Auckland, and Brett, the singer, going to Australia. So I'm left with Craig, the bass player, and Mark, the drummer, and so we make Nefarious, right?
So you make Nefarious, which would have probably had Colin Long in it if he was still alive, right?
Well, I mean, if Colin was alive,
maybe
who knows? So I would have never been in Toxic Avengers.
Yeah, things.
So, I mean, it's really hard to, to really know exactly what would have happened. But, I mean, chances are I would have been in a band with Colin at some point, I would say. Without a doubt. He had alluded to as much. He had talked about, well, actually, I'd even had a jam with like him and Richard, with just him singing. And he was gonna like be an outrageous front man, and we were gonna do something like that, and as well as he was gonna, he had this acoustic comedy thing that was gonna happen with him and this other guy, Dean Brown, this poet that it was going to be the Beer and Sex tour, and I was going to be on that as Dick Fucks, which is my comedy thing, you know.
Led to GFNR and
which led to the GFNR when I got sick of doing comedy. I was like, I'll just turn it into a hardcore band. These songs will translate well. You know,
break some balls instead.
Yeah, right. You know, break
but
some
with,
hearts, break some
with
noses.
the remnants of Toxic Avengers came Nefarious, a fucking powerhouse
it
of
just
a
so
band.
happened. Yeah, right. And it just so happened that, you know, when we were recording the last Toxic Avengers recording, Anyone for Design of Violence, we took Craig Radford with us from Sticky Filth, right? Because he had been in the studio more than any of us. I'd recorded the PM. Yeah, no, he hadn't been there, but he had made a few albums, you know.
That's where you guys.
So you know, we wanted someone to help Alan, you know, get us sounding right, you know, to help him with the, you know, get that initial mix and so we did 4 songs and then at the end he jumped on the bass, Craig, and him and Boot had been jamming the song. I didn't know, but he just said just play blues fast and stop the second verse or whatever, and so I just did it, and then when he sang Mustang Sally, and I was like, what the fuck? You know, but it was the blistering version, right? So
it's a great fucking version.
So funny
it's
enough,
the best one.
That turned out to be the first Nefarious recording happened at the last Toxic Avengers recording, right? And Craig wasn't even in Nefarious. Okay, so and the funny thing was that by the time by the time we were ready to do more recording, like because we were Nefarious, we'd become Nefarious, we were like Radford had jumped up and he was singing Mustang Sally with us, you know, live. And then our bass player was Toxic Avengers.
There's Toxic with
that's
you.
A breakthrough.
Okay,
so more Toxic.
His
so Nefarious. So our bass player there, Mr. Mackenzie, Craig, who had come from Toxic Avengers, he ended up having to go on a forced holiday.
Yeah, I know what you mean. Yeah.
Okay. Just, you know, like has happened sometimes.
Yep. We've all had to go on a forced holiday.
Okay, so, you know, because I mean, this band happened after I got back from holiday.
Right. Yeah,
so,
exactly.
you know, he had to go on holiday and so Craig, being a bass player, I said, Craig, can you fill in? You know? So he's like, yeah, I'd love to. So, you know, he starts playing bass. And so then I'm like, hey, we should play Crucifix Road from the first Sticky Filth tape, you know?
From way back.
And because I love that song and it was never recorded, you know, it was only live, you know? So we did that and it sounded great. So I'm like, well, we should do Dead as well. And so we did that as well.
Wow.
And it was like, hey, this is working good. So then Craig started writing a few songs, and you know, back then the deal was if you wrote it, you sung it, right? So by the time our bass player got back from holiday, we had a new half singer, you know, like because you know our bass player was back, and now we had someone that would get up on stage for the first half of our set, and you know, and I'd sing the second half, or
man,
you know, depending on how long we had, you know, maybe I'd only do 4 or 5 songs at the end, you know, but it was a killer band, and you know, that whole period where we recorded 3 albums in like a period of less than 2 years, those first 3 Nefarious albums,
bang bang bang,
you know, that's, you know, considered classic stuff in this country, right? It's you know,
very
especially
much hardcore,
you know, Federation Rock and Roll. And
Yeah,
then you've got,
man.
you know, great songs on Dawn of the Rebel Angels like Tear Me to Pieces that separate, you know.
Oh,
I
it's a
mean,
beautiful song, man. Beautiful riff, and it's
you
like,
know, and you know,
yep,
to think that, you know, Simp wrote the music on that one. I mean,
I know, man.
it's like,
It's yeah,
it's
props.
just things that can happen. You know, so
Musicians, you know.
yeah, it was a good period, but it was a short period, you know, like
Mm-hmm.
Boot,
Because
like
Boot left,
Craig
right?
left in '94, you know, then not long
Yeah,
after Boot followed him, and you know, and we briefly got
and then
Richard showed back up from Toxic Avengers, and he jumped on
yeah,
drums for a tour, and then we got Chris Harding, and he was at the time he was like such a great drummer, and having him was integral to the direction I was taking us. But
yeah, real tribal,
you know, my
fucking different.
direction was forever changing and evolving. So I didn't want to keep making the same sounding stuff
Of course.
as, you know, like, you know, so I mean that band ended up becoming quite different than it started.
Y- Yeah,
And you know, and then it got to a point where it's like, well, it's been like, you know, 10 years and it's time to move on anyway. And you know, I've changed it so much that I'm probably gone too far. It's just time to start fresh. And so then we get to, you know,
and
next
it's
main
like year
thing was Horror Story.
2099, right?
I mean,
And it's Horror
obviously, we're
Story.
missing out things like
We
GFNR,
are
the
like,
Goat Fucking Nun Rapers.
and like
We're missing
this,
out Blood. We're missing out Horror Business. Demon Dogs. Well, they
Demon
started in
Dolls.
2000, I think.
Okay.
Maybe 99.
See,
You
like
know,
with you, Nigel, there's a part two, I think, because there's so much
yeah,
more to
I
talk
mean,
about.
there is a lot of stuff here. There
Yeah,
is a hell of a lot of stuff here. I mean,
and
you know,
Horror
to
Story.
try and, I mean, I don't know how long you plan on having the show, but yeah, to try and
Oh
fit
yeah,
in
we got a lot
everything
to
is,
unpack.
oh yeah, I mean, you know, and it could be just like a quick thing where I mention something, but if you want to
Yeah,
deep dive, yeah, that's episodes, right?
exactly.
Like
So,
volume
but
1 to
Horror
10
Story,
or
right?
something.
In
Yeah, right.
2000,
And
and
that was, you know, that was because that was, you know, me wanting to do something very different from, you know, everything else that was going on. And huge Misfits fan, Danzig, you know, Sam Hain,
yep.
and all those influences really came to a head with that band, and we became known as something that was called horror punk back in the early days of you know, what they
Horror punk.
considered horror punk,
Yeah,
and are considered, you know, one of the early bands of
the
that
genre.
wave of that sort of thing. Although you know, it's uh, it's a very interesting world to check out,
There's a
and
lot of
it's been
trees
very
and
good to us,
branches.
you know.
Yep.
Yeah, I mean, you know, there are. I mean, this is the thing: is that people make the mistake that horror punk is a genre or a type of
Mm,
sound, but the
it's a lot
best
to
horror
it.
punk bands don't sound anything like each other, really. You know, like, you
Yeah,
know, it's like the main thing is the content, is the horror. You know, like, I mean, or maybe it even isn't that. I don't know, but the definition
it's
is
on
more
each band
of
that is
a
great
it's
is
more of a
different for
style
their
than
own
it is
thing.
a sound. You know,
Oh yeah, yeah. It's
I
a
mean,
whole package.
you could just be like, oh, we are trying to sound like the Misfits, or you're just being a cool band that's interested in dark stuff, right?
And that's the one,
Um,
being a cool, more like it
you know,
doing
I
your
mean,
thing,
when
but
we were
it's
doing what we were doing, I was thinking, okay, you know, there is nothing like that here,
yeah,
you know, and there was hardly anything like that anywhere. I mean, there was only a handful of bands, so it
There's still
was.
not
And I
that
mean, it
much
wasn't
here
until
in the way of that.
well, wasn't really till I made Cyclotrode X that there was, and we were like horror punk, but we were more like metal sort of edge, and then Dr.
Yeah.
Monster, right?
Yeah, which had me
Which
in it.
was, I don't know, like maybe had a slightly more goth rock element.
Like a horror rock sort of
Well,
thing.
quite a few of these things, Suicide Junkies,
Yeah.
and that's the thing, so then when we went on to do things like Suicide Junkies and Hate Seeker, we've been very much embraced by the horror punk community more than the normal punk community, because I guess, these people already know who we are from our older bands, from Horror Story and other things that we've done.
Yep.
So, a lot of people assume, okay, this is horror punk, when, we're not
And
actually,
they take it in.
like Hate Seeker, we're not actually pushing a horror punk agenda. But
Not at all.
like Cancer Slug, it's one of those bands that many people listen to that would consider horror punk, even though it's not really like
It's not at
a
all, but
full-on horror punk sort of situation, and that's
it's
just,
its own
and that's what I
thing,
mean
right?
and that's what I mean about like this horror punk thing is that it's not really about like
A formula
what people
or
think of.
anything.
Yeah, well, I mean, it is to some people, but like it's like you could be doing almost anything. Almost, it's like as long as it's good. I mean, that's what it comes down to, right? I mean, but yeah, it's interesting
as
because there's
anything
a
is
lot of
good.
support there, and I don't get that support from anywhere else. Like so, as much as people, whatever they want to think about it, they are the people that are supporting us. I mean,
Yeah.
of course,
I've
there's the
seen it
local
firsthand.
people that support us, but worldwide, it's not like we're getting support
There's
from
more.
your average punk, show or anything. It's like, and I guess we're not on the radar or whatever.
It's like if we were put in Germany, we'd be like, boom, blow up. We're
that's
bigger
it, right?
there.
That's it. I mean, but that's also proven to be a problem because in times when we were meant to go overseas, we're of course unable to do it because no one could actually afford to pay to bring a band from New Zealand to tour them for that long in America because it costs so much fucking money, and so and so when that happened and we're meant to be touring America and that all got cancelled and we missed out on record deals.
Yeah,
With
that was
certain
right around
horror
the
punk
time that I
labels, and then
was
we missed out on
coming in.
a record deal with people like U Records, right? Who were going to sign us at one point. Horror Story, and I mean that was to me was the big the label I wanted to be on, like, and he was going to sign us, and then
big deal,
that's the
it's
story
a
of my
big
life
thing.
is that every time someone's going to do something that's my band, their label shuts down or they get shot and die or whatever it is, it doesn't happen. And which is why I made Wasteland Records and started putting out tapes in the 90s and
do it yourself,
then
right?
turned it into
Other
Demolition
people
Music
can't.
and started putting out CDs in like 96 and and then just recently putting out records, because no one else is going to be doing it for me. I've never had that luxury. One that's ever said they would, for whatever
and
reason,
then it just
it's
doesn't
never done
happen.
it,
So
I rely
you
on
learn your
myself.
lesson and do it yourself.
People say, "Oh, Nigel, you've got." Well, people say, chances are you've written more albums than anyone in New Zealand. And how, and it's like, how do you do that, and how do you release so much, and how and it blows their mind, and it's like, well, because I do it. That's how.
Yeah.
Just because I
You just
do it. I
life
make it
is
happen.
you're doing rock and
And
roll.
I'm not
That's
waiting
it.
on someone else, right?
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, and because of that, you won't be seeing me in well, you never would see me in none of those glossy magazines or getting no New Zealand on air
Except
fucking shit.
I've seen last night. I checked out again. Excess TV. They embraced. Hey,
Right? Thanks, New Zealand on air, for all the money you never gave us. Luckily, we knew how to make a video ourselves, right? And we didn't need them to do that. But we never received any support from this country, and that's a fact, right?
it's pretty typical,
So
right?
I ain't gonna candy coat it and act like the New Zealand industry have got any love for us, because they'd be happier if we'd just go die.
If we just go away.
So someone say to me, and it's like, more people should be doing things. It's like so many bands, that, like people that make a lot more money than me. They have real jobs, right? They ain't punk rock musicians,
Yeah.
and they make a ton of money. But like, oh, you should put out our get all your money.
Hey,
Like,
what the
I'll
fuck?
put it out. You give me the money.
Yeah.
I'll put out your record. Like, I'm
Yeah.
saving up money to
Easy.
put out what I want to put out, and even if well, it's like, hey, I do want to put out your record because I do like it, but if you ain't gonna put any money, it's just reality. I mean, we've got our
When
own
they've got
shit
the
to deal with, let
money,
alone trying to help out someone else, and and they've probably got like, well, that's what gets me, right? It's like all these people with a bunch of money that don't do anything with it. And
well, like
here's
they don't
me,
do what they are wanting to do.
with nothing.
Mm-hmm. Doing
Well,
it. You're
it's just
doing
like, how committed are you to what you're doing?
it.
Is the word commitment, right?
Yep.
Like,
Follow through.
this is my life.
Yeah.
Right?
Yep.
From 13 to now, that's it. Right?
From where we started
life,
tonight with the march to like now, it's all rock and roll. It's been this one
right.
thing.
I mean, like, and we just sort of briefly,
We've glazed over the top of
this
it,
is a
really.
quick introduction.
Yeah.
I mean,
This is New Plymouth
but
Hardcore's bloody legend, Nigel Toxic here, and we're just glazing the top right now. There's a
I
lot
mean,
to go into.
yeah, I don't know. I always thought a legend was someone that was dead already. Right?
I know, that's why
Like,
I put in that living always now, because people fucking tell me that.
right, yeah, living legend. Yeah, I don't know, more like a dying one at this point.
Undead legend.
I feel like, yeah, that's more like it. It's just like, to me, it seems like we're at the end of what was a great era of music in this country, and
yep,
what I was a part of has really become almost a revivalist movement.
Yeah, it's something that was, and you're like, well, what's
It's
going
not
on
same
now?
anymore.
Yeah.
I mean, but
It's a
3.5
different.
decades later, that's what happens. Yes, I
it shouldn't
don't
be the same.
understand the kids anymore. I got, I'm the first to say it. I don't get the kids. I don't understand what they're on about. I don't care.
Yeah.
They probably
Just
don't
like the
get
adults
me,
didn't care
and
for you guys.
it's just
They didn't.
how it is.
Yeah.
That's what happens, right? I mean,
Yeah.
But yeah, in this country, it's sad to say, but the whole punk rock thing is pretty much really just a revivalist movement.
It's trucking along very
I mean,
literally, like, yeah.
I mean, well, you look back to like 2013 to 15, and the gigs we were doing then, Stefan, and
There were some good
how
gigs.
fucking grim it got,
Oh,
from that period
after that,
onwards,
Yeah.
and it wasn't until we were able to like have some semblance of our own underground venue that we were able to sort of drag things back to a more healthy situation, which then helped us rebuild the live scene.
For a while, it was only us
in
playing live. It
our
was
town,
crazy.
which is it was us and Souls of Hades, pretty much.
Yeah.
And so, and that wears on us as Hate Seeker and Souls of Hades because, of course, when the new bands finally come along years later, once we've established a nice new venue, right?
Yeah.
Once we've gotten a stage put in and they've got a PA and, shout out to 8 Ball for being a great venue too. But, they come, these bands finally show back up to play and it's like, people are sick of us. So it's about time, right? Because we've been the only ones doing it.
Yeah.
But, everyone seems to show up in the good times. In the bad, hard times, it's a bit less traffic on the road, so to say, right? It's
yeah. Well, Hate Seeker,
bit,
speaking of Hate Seeker, we've got a gig coming up soon, don't we? We should we've got
do have a gig come out
at the 8 Ball.
Yeah,
so
I mean,
come out
we're playing at 8 Ball. What's the date? I don't know.
It's I think it's
like
on
Saturday, the 22nd.
Second, yeah, 21st or 2nd.
21st. Frenzy
Maybe.
Fest, 8 Ball.
Frenzy Fest, 8 Ball.
Yeah, that's what it's called. Right.
Yep.
Yeah, right.
Cool.
So, there's a bunch of tribute bands playing, but that's a whole nother. That's a whole nother
That's a whole nother thing. That's a different
come and
thing.
see some good local Taranaki original music.
Yeah,
right?
apparently it's pretty. We're on early.
These bands will be playing before the cover bands. I mean, tribute bands. Sorry,
tribute bands. Yes.
Not trying to step on anyone's toes here.
Yeah, well, it's hard to know what they want to be called because we did the Ramones, and it was hard to even know. Like, are we a cover tribute? I don't know.
To me, it's one of those things. It's like, well,
but we didn't do these things like getting
all
originals.
It's just like when people like, it's one thing to do something out of love for fun.
Yeah, which is what that was.
A handful of times, right? And it's a whole nother thing to like be a band that specializes in playing a band's songs.
Different, very different, yeah.
Well, I just find no merit in it.
Mm.
It's empty for me. It's like, it's like, it's counterfeit. Fraudulent.
Yeah, it's not. It's fugazi.
You know what I mean? Fuba.
Yes.
And that's what it is, man.
You bring up
the cover is the cover in my book.
Suicide Junkies.
Junkies. Now, there's a name. If you don't want to get any love, put the word suicide next to the word junkies. Call your album Razor Blade Rock.
You're going to get all the love there. Oh, yes.
Start your journey there.
Now, so Horror Story went from being, you guys, you were inspired by the Misfits to here we are opening for the Misfits for the third time.
The Misfits for the third time. Yeah.
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 How's that?
I mean, well, I mean, it was very cool. It could have only been better if Danzig had been there or Doyle had been there, but
of course, but you know what I mean.
That I already had my fucking time hanging with Danzig. It wasn't as much of an issue for me that he wasn't.
Yeah, you'd
like,
you'd got a special. It was more,
and, and having those guys. Yeah, there's a whole thing on the
Frumies.
They Came from Lodi channel.
Yeah.
Yeah, Jeff Frumies, and
Yeah.
he does a lot of great Danzig Misfits, Sam Hain related content.
Yeah, shout
and
out
you
to
should go and
Frumies,
check it
great
out if
show.
you're into that sort of thing.
Yeah.
And so if you want to know about my Danzig story, you can look through his
It's there.
playlist and you can hear the tale of me drinking with Danzig for a couple of nights while he was here to play in '93. But
It's pretty
I
good.
digress. I think we were talking about smoking dope with Jerry only.
I think we were.
And I think we were talking about something else here.
Yeah.
No,
So,
but
Jerry.
no, Jerry Only's new album, brilliant album, man. I've got to say,
Oh, mate.
Some people
I had,
hate
yeah.
that man.
I love
but
that
I've
it's
got to say, some love
I love
for
it.
Jerry.
It's Jerry only.
He's always been good to me.
Yeah.
He's always been good to me, man. And I got to say, I really do like his new album.
Yeah, and it not being a Misfits album, it just, I don't know, it's maybe
exactly.
it changed
It
his
takes
writing.
away the expectations. I think this is what he should have done. After Graves was gone, he should have done that.
Yeah, because imagine Devil's
M25.
Reign.
Well,
Jerry only.
everything from the 1950s project gone.
Yeah, yep. Because that was sort of a super group in its own.
Originally I don't think it was meant to be. It was called M25, and it was meant to be a side project. And then the Misfit band fell apart, and Jerry reassembled that to be that.
Yeah, and it made sense with the name, and they owned it.
As someone trying to keep a band afloat, it makes absolute sense, and it did for a long time, and it was, it worked for them, and it also, it gave people, once they had Robo back in, it gave people, like when they came here, it also gave us a chance to get a bunch of Black Flag covers, because the first time they came here, they had Robo and Dez. And halfway through the set, they were like turned into Black Flag, Damage Era with Dez singing, and done 4 or 5 numbers, and it was just brilliant.
That's crazy. Yeah,
I mean, because it's not like we're ever gonna see that.
No.
So
yeah.
So I mean, it was cool by me, but
fucking hell.
A
lot of people put that shit down, but it's like, nah, that's awesome.
Yeah, man. People that want to be like that, haters. I mean, it's one thing to not understand something and admit that you just don't get it, or you're too old, or whatever.
I've got merit in that. Like, I find merit in that.
Reason to hate on anything.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I mean, I've got an opinion, but I'm not ever gonna try and ram it down anyone's throat, or
something you don't like.
If someone asks me, or if I have a platform to say something, I'll say it. But I try to keep positive. If I really don't have something good to say, I'm just not really gonna say it. I don't want to. I don't want to bring attention to someone. Right? It's a waste of my time and whoever's time that I'm saying it to. So I just try and keep.
It's old school values.
And well, I mean, it still happens though. It's like very much like because of the internet, everyone's a critic and everyone's a hater, and like bringing up the Jerry Only album, and everyone wants to be the critic, and everyone wants to think their opinion matters, and everyone wants to say this album sucks, and and it's like, well, don't review it then.
Yeah, to them it may, and it's like, okay, if it sucks that much, then don't like it.
What are you spending so much time hating on it for?
Yeah,
get a life.
It's bullshit,
so
right?
I am gonna hate on one breed of people right now. I'm gonna hate on the haters, right?
Fucking oath.
They can go to fucking hell, right?
We're gonna
I
seek those haters
I
out.
can't abide that shit. You know, like,
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, fuck those people, man. You know,
Yeah.
like, there's too much
Yeah,
of that
fucking
shit.
mate.
World's too negative. There's too much division. The last thing we
Yeah.
need is people going, well, I don't like you because you listen to Michael Graves or,
It's
you
yeah,
know,
especially in
fucking,
punk rock.
you know, I mean,
It's supposed
I
to be
don't
inclusive.
care about politics. Politics are
Neither do I.
fucking bullshit, right?
It just
I
it
mean,
doesn't even belong in it in
it's
punk
not
rock.
helping anyone. And,
No,
you know, so the
it's
sooner
dividing
people forget
everyone.
about that and just get on with rock and roll,
Yeah.
and stop trying to say that, you know, Danzig's a Nazi or Jerry
Or
Only's a
anything.
secret fucking weirdo or whatever. You know,
Mm.
it's all just conjecture from
Like,
kids that don't understand the past. They see
yeah.
an image of Joey Image, rest his soul, wearing a
With the
swastika
Nazi,
t-shirt.
but like,
And they don't
yeah, they see
understand. They
Sid
don't
in it.
Sid Vicious, you
Yeah,
know, and they just, you know, you try and
they don't
explain
get it.
the shock value, you know, but it's lost on a great amount, you know, because it's also reactionary, you know,
Yeah,
like that. It's like
and that's what they were out
any
for. It was a reaction.
fanaticism, anything, you know, as soon as you get fanatical about something, you get
Mm.
out of balance, you know. And
Yeah,
if you're
yeah,
out of balance, you know, if you're too far to the left or you're too far to the right, you know,
it's not good.
then, you know, I mean, because if I go like that,
And then
or
we
if I
can
go like
see.
that, but if I'm
Yeah,
in the middle, that's balance.
yeah.
And
Fuck it
that's
up.
what we lack in this world. It's really easy. That's simple,
Yeah,
right? And, you know, we have a symbol called the yin and yang symbol. It pretty much tells you all you need to know,
it
you know,
sums up a
and
lot.
balance is the
Yeah,
key. And, you know, and I'm far from perfect as a person, right? I mean,
nor am
I
I.
got issues with 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 a
Of
fiery
capital.
temper and, you know, and all sorts of things, you know. But you know, we all trying to understand
And
and
be
balance
better
our
and
shit, right?
yeah,
And be better. And if you're not,
yeah.
you should be, right? Like,
It's something
I
you
mean,
should
unless
strive
you're
for.
already there,
Yeah,
you know,
but
you're
who's
already
already
God.
there?
Well,
There's always something
well,
to learn and be better. And
well, you know, while you're
always more
here
punk rock.
in your body, you
Yep,
know, while you're walking among us
that's
in a
right.
flesh suit.
Yep.
Yeah, that's the whole point of it, right?
Got the
Like,
misfits.
you know, well, I mean, the thing is like, the way I see things is that, you know, it's like, you know, with punk rock, you're not going to get many bands that are going to be famous. You know, not like they, you know, I mean, you got the big ones, right? You've got all that,
Yeah,
but,
yeah,
you know,
yeah.
like
The
bands
big
like what
three.
we do, we're in New Zealand and it's so far removed, and unless you do death metal and fucking Maori, you're not going to get any attention or whatever, right?
Yep,
So,
yep.
you know, and
I hear
power
that.
to that. But you know, I'm just saying, unless she had, you know, or something, you know, it's like punk rock is dead as far as these record company people are concerned, and you know, so um, it's just that whole thing now of, you know, uh, it's
Punk
it's
rock
just
is
one of
dead
those
and we're
things.
punk
It's like,
rock.
it is, right? That's what it comes down to. And you know, the old horror story thing used to be keeping punk rock dead since 2000 AD. Oh, sorry, keeping punk rock undead since 2000 AD.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
you know, it's just like a very strange time, and it's gonna be even stranger. You know,
The
that's what I'm
times are
saying.
gonna get even stranger, just like you say. Well, I think it's just gonna get weird, but it's gonna come back. Well, I don't know. We'll see, right?
Well, you know, I mean, you know, but you know, it's like the thing is like as I was saying, you know, only so many punk bands can be the top, right?
Mm,
And the
yeah,
rest of us, You know,
Especially
we're
in
doing
New
this out of
Zealand.
love. Well, exactly,
Yep.
right? And even Horror Story, you know, like, or Nefarious, as big as those bands were, is like, you know,
Yeah.
it's not like you could be living off that in this country. And, you know,
It's
and
far
it's not
from.
like it's easy to get to another country,
Mm.
especially when that country won't even let you in their country, you know, like,
Yeah.
but,
That's a problem there. Yeah.
you know, but
It's
the,
gonna-
my point is that like the journeyman wrestlers, I see us to be the same. You know,
Yep.
you've got all these wrestlers that,
Going from
for
territory
whatever
to
reason,
territory. They
you know,
keep
they
going.
didn't get, you know, they didn't get the big push, they didn't
Yeah.
get the big break, but they were great in their own right where they were doing it,
Yep.
and they have a great story, whether it's told or not, you know, and they lived what they loved, and
Yep.
so that's the way I see us, you know,
Oh yeah.
much
Yeah.
like that, you know, is
I
that,
see you
you
like
know,
that very much so.
well, you know, we've been on the
We've been
same
doing
road
this for
together for
17 years now, Nigel. It's been a
yeah,
long road.
right. So I mean, you know, me and you have been on that road for a while, and it was
Yep.
already, you know, it had already been, you know, a while for me, but you know, like
Yeah. It already been a long time
as
for you.
as long as you're happy, you know, and doing it, and you keep doing it.
That's all that
Unfortunately,
matters.
things really broke down here, you know, and it's just not, it's not quite what it was, and that's what
Yep.
happens when you get older, kids. You know,
Yep.
you get
I
older,
think
and suddenly what you were into is not the thing.
Nigel,
What's it-
I'm gonna have to get some delve into some of these things more deeper with you in the future.
Yeah, maybe
Do some
maybe put
episodes.
down some questions. Maybe think what you want to know about specifically.
Yeah,
Like
no, but
go
those
fucking unrated
the
or
the events around
you
it,
know,
like Colin's death and stuff like that. We'll
yeah,
talk about.
or
Yeah,
you know, maybe
we'll
the
delve
Truth
into
magazine
something.
article.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, hey,
So,
good talking to you, brother.
yeah, so we'll do episode 2. This is episode 1 of the After Hours Stephen X show, X-rated, and we're with Nigel Toxic, and it's fucking episode 1, and we're rocking and we're rolling punk rock, motherfucker. Yeah, good one, Nigel. Thank you.
Thank
Thanks.
you.
All right. Peace out, brother.
Catch you